While we're all eagerly awaiting the reveal of the next newcomer to the roster of Super Smash Bros., several character ideas tend to get commonly shared around. Your Genos, Waluigis, Soras, new Pokemon, and the like. But after some recent rumors were surfacing of a character from a very popular game getting into Smash that wasn't really gaining much traction in online polling and speculation prior to that, I wanted to talk more about the subject of sleeper picks. If you're a fan of fantasy sports, I'm sure you're familiar with the term. These are the dark horse characters who may have a legitimate chance to get into Smash, but not that many people seem to be talking about them. In this video, we're going to cover a few characters that I believe fit this criteria, and talk about why even though many aren't expecting them to be included, they could very well be the next addition into Nintendo's premier fighting franchise. Remember to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's get started. Very recently, there's been a lot of buzz about a potential newcomer for Smash that wasn't talked about much before, with this being the default from Fortnite. Now this one has certainly generated its fair share of controversy from the moment that it was brought up as a feasible possibility, because for a long time, many never really brought up Fortnite as a potential character in discussions, but recent information has made the situation a little more interesting. So in the past couple of weeks, the game's creative director of Epic Games, the studio that made Fortnite, when asked about adding Fortnite into the Smash Bros. Universe, refused to comment on the situation, which was pretty interesting. You see, these are pretty weird situations that you're putting these individuals in when questions like this are asked, because if something is going on, they obviously can't say, so you'll never really get a yes answer, and the two responses you'll almost always get are no or I cannot comment at this time, with this being an example of the latter. And there have been instances in the past when the answer of outright no was given for characters that many thought were possible, such as Level 5, the developers of Yokai Watch talking about how it would be great if a character got in, and saying outright that nothing was in the works at that moment. Now that could have changed by this point. I'm not saying that Jibanyan or anyone else from Yokai Watch isn't going to get in or anything like that. That interview was a few years ago. I'm just using that as an example for why this response from the creative director may be a little bit telling. There could very well be nothing in the works and he's just leaving the option open, but there is also a good possibility of a Fortnite character getting in. So let's talk about that for a little bit. First of all, a representative from a game like this getting in, I believe, had been slept on for a long time because there hadn't really been a precedent set for characters from recent third-party multiplayer games included in the roster. Yeah, there had been a lot of third-party inclusions, but most had some proven historical series significance, which I assumed was to support the idea that if these characters are being carried over to a title in the future, that they will still be known and have some relevance, that they'll age well. But the inclusion of Steve from Minecraft really changed a lot about what people believed could happen for fighters in Smash. I made an entire video about whether or not it's the biggest and most significant fighter reveal ever, and while it's still up for debate, one of the biggest factors of importance that came out of this inclusion is that if your game is mega popular in recent years, even if it's not a first-party title, yes, you can definitely get into Smash. And Fortnite? Oh man, if you're looking for a popular title over the last couple of years, you'd be hard-pressed to find one that's had more of an impact than this one. And while yes, its popularity undoubtedly peaked in mid-2018, to say that the game is dead or that it's not making a ton of money nowadays would still be absurd. In August of this year, the game was reported to have had 22.5 million daily active users, which is still a lot. And if we're gonna go back to that mid to late 2018 timeframe, those numbers look even better for the Switch specifically, as a 2018 report had stated that nearly half of the Switch's user base had installed this game. Nearly half. At the time, that would have been at least 10 to 11 million downloads, and yes, I know the game is free to play, so the numbers may not be appropriately comparable to some games that you have to pay for, but you can't just write that off, as it wouldn't be doing those numbers justice. Now, being the case with almost every quote-unquote trend game, there is some vocal community that will oppose Fortnite and everything with it purely because it's popular with no other reasoning. This same vocal community are the ones who hate on Steve's inclusion in Smash because a character like that represents a franchise which isn't something that they like to associate with. And one of the main reasons that they may play Nintendo consoles and interact with others in the Nintendo community would be to avoid those particular games and franchises. Now, I don't think it's necessarily right to hate something just because it's popular. If you see a lot of people playing something and you try it out and don't like it for whatever reason, then yes, your opinion is obviously justified, but that's not the case with a lot of people who dislike this title. What about those who look past the generally younger community of fans, the memes, the amount that it's forced into mainstream culture, and just look at the game itself for what it is at its core? A popular battle royale game, a game with a location that has a variety of unique looks to provide a stage similar to the one that Steve brings, one with a character who could use a variety of weapon types, and has the ability to build structures, again, just like Steve. And one which is blown up, had its peak, and while it still doesn't have that same amount of popularity, manages to live on and thrive in its own current state in spite of that, just like Minecraft. If you're a person like me who could spot all of these similarities, and while I was never personally a Fortnite fan or a member of the community, I can admit, and I may get some flack for this, there's legitimately a chance for this character, and if they did get in, I could see a seamless moveset and stage integration. I really can. Would I be personally excited for a Fortnite representative? No, of course not, but I wouldn't really be angry about it either, which I know a lot of the reaction is going to be. And the reason for that is because I know that there will be a lot of people, especially those in the younger segment of the audience, that will be incredibly excited for this. There will also be lots of meme potential, and seeing people angry on Twitter and Reddit sometimes makes you wonder how getting this much entertainment can be free, and at the end of it, we all may actually get a fun and unique character. If a Fortnite character actually gets into Smash, I think the reaction will be a mix of both Byleth and Steve. It'll blow up and get a lot of attention, just like Steve's reveal, but it will also get a lot of the hate like Byleth. Maybe more, maybe less, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't think that the hate is gonna amount to too much. This isn't gonna be a boycott that actually works like the one for Federation Force, where nobody actually bought it, and the philosophy of the franchise completely shifted because of that. This will likely be the Sword and Shield type of boycott. Complain about them prior to release, and when they finally do, they take the world by storm and sell more units than many would have ever thought. I'm not saying it's right, but it will sell, and if you're Nintendo choosing the characters for DLC, if you're gonna answer the question now of who's bringing in the most money as a fighter, a Fortnite rep has been a sleeper pick for a long time as this role, but more recently has been thrown into the spotlight and may very well be near the top of the list. But while the idea of a Fortnite character getting into Smash has been thrown into the spotlight more recently, the character that I'm about to talk about next still hasn't been getting much attention, at least when it comes to Smash, that is. Many have heard the news that Ring Fit Adventure has taken the Nintendo community by storm. Well, sort of. You see, ever since the game's release, there had been many stock shortages which led to the idea that the game was really popular, and a lot more than Nintendo may have been initially expecting. But I don't think anyone would have expected the massive amounts of sales numbers that ended up coming in. As of September 30th, Ring Fit Adventure had sold 5.84 million units, likely passing that 6 million milestone by our present times right now. These massive numbers have been covered to a decent extent in the community, but nothing close to how much I believe that they truly deserve to be. And I believe that this is mainly because of the even more massive Animal Crossing New Horizons sales, with that game already being the second highest selling game on the Switch with 26 million units, and it's well on pace to eventually pass Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as the #1 best-selling game on the console. That is indeed much bigger news than what's going on with Ring Fit right now, because those numbers don't seem nearly as large in comparison, but I think that if I put the numbers in perspective, we could get a better idea of really just how massive the launch of Ring Fit was. Breath of the Wild was the critically acclaimed launch title for the Nintendo Switch, now sitting high in the top 5 Nintendo Switch games sales-wise, with nearly 20 million units sold. And while its status as a top 5 game may not permanently hold out when Sword and Shield eventually pass it, and potentially Odyssey squeezing in behind as well, there's no denying that it was a massive success. Successful enough to get a sequel. This game's been on the market for over 3 years now, and of those 20 million units sold, there are around 1.6 million physical copies that were sold in Japan, a number which has been slightly passed now by, you guessed it, Ring Fit Adventure. This is a really big deal, because with Breath of the Wild, not only did it have all the hype of being a launch title, and the established series behind it upon which it expanded the traditional formula for the Legend of Zelda series, Ring Fit had none of that. It's a new IP in a genre not focused on nearly as much overall in the industry as Breath of the Wild's genre is, and despite all of it, it outperformed Breath of the Wild in this particular segment of sales. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this is the be-all and end-all. I still doubt Ring Fit is going to pass Breath of the Wild sales-wise, even at this point 2 years later, because the other demographics are much stronger towards Breath of the Wild, but there are even more signs pointing to the success of the game. Right now, I'm going to list off some metrics that fans of some particular franchises may not want to hear. Ring Fit Adventure has around double the amount of sales as Fire Emblem Three Houses, another title that released last year and the best-selling entry in the history of the series. It has more than double the amount of sales as ARMS, another new IP for Nintendo on the Switch that released over 3 years ago, I might add, and nearly triple the sales of Minecraft on the Switch, something that's been available for fans to buy for over 3 years on the console as well. And it's been one of the most popular franchises of the past decade. And what do all of those examples have in common? They were all given representatives as DLC for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, again, a game that was released nearly 3 years ago, has a duo of characters that was considered by many, including myself, to be some of the most likely candidates for a DLC role, because they're not only pretty popular, but Sakurai himself had confirmed that the only reason that a Xenoblade 2 character wasn't included was because of a lack of development time prior to the game's base release. Ring Fit Adventure has nearly triple the sales of that game as well, and they were going to get a fighter. If the Ring Fit trainee was from almost any other franchise, any other character, you'd bet that they'd be talked about as one of the most likely candidates for the roster, but she's not. And why? Well, there's quite a bit to unpack here, and I think a lot of it has to do with the relatively negative reception to the inclusion of Wii Fit Trainer in Super Smash Bros. 4. Looking at the situation now, I don't think that many people really dislike the character, some including myself find it pretty fun to play as her, as there have been several unique components to her moveset, but at the time of the reveal, 7 years ago, yeah, I feel old yet, there wasn't the greatest like to dislike ratio on the reveal trailer by the standards that had been previously set at that time. The attitude wasn't really like the Byleth thing where people go, I hate that this character got in. No, it was just sort of, really? The Wii Fit guy? They couldn't get any other character instead? That sort of deal. I think the best word to describe it is probably just generally underwhelming. And to have two characters included in that vein may put a sour taste in the mouths of Smash fans. I'm here today not to praise the idea of Ring Fit getting in, as I'm sure there weren't too many requests for her, but just to let you know, she's a lot more likely than you may think. Every single game on the Nintendo Switch sales chart above Ring Fit has at least one character representative for it in Smash Ultimate already. They may not have been explicitly chosen to represent the game, like how Mario can represent Super Mario Party for example, but there is indeed someone in there for every single one of those games. And I genuinely believe that Ring Fit Trainer has a shot for this. But if that is the case, how would it work? Regardless of the popularity, the character needs to have some type of interesting moveset to be included nowadays. With the exception of maybe Byleth, each of the DLC characters have had some sort of unique gimmick to make them stand out, and would the Ring Fit trainee have that? There's definitely potential. Not only would various fitness-related attacks be able to be implemented, of which there are many options, but potentially, and I know this could be quite a stretch, but what if the Ring Con was made available as a type of control scheme? Yeah, I know something like this probably wouldn't be best suited for competitive play, but if it was an option for casual play, that could definitely be a lot of fun, and certainly unique. But is absolutely everything looking good for the Ring Fit trainee to get into Smash? No, but I doubt it's the case with any potential newcomer. The biggest problem I see is that they already did a Spirit event related to this game back in March. Now yes, I'm well aware that being a Spirit in the game, thankfully, does not deconfirm your eligibility to be a fighter, as Min Min was a Spirit, but was then later announced as a fighter. But something that we've seen with all of these DLC characters are new Spirit events related to their series being added into the game. If Nintendo already decided at that time to add an event specifically related to Ring Fit, would they really plan on adding another down the road? If that was the case, then why wouldn't they just wait till the release of the fighter to add all those spirits to go along with it? This isn't really big evidence against or anything like that, I just wanted to provide the contrarian opinion since I've been spending a lot of time giving evidence for her to be playable, and it's definitely not a guarantee. But this Spirit event may not be that significant. I still believe that a Gen 8 Pokemon has a good chance to get into Smash despite the fact that there's been a Sword and Shield Spirit event already. This Spirit event debacle also kind of factors into the idea of an Octopath Traveler character getting into Smash. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I don't believe the other evidence available to be that much in favor of an Octopath rep, as much as I'd personally like to see one. Maybe some scenario where the 8 abilities of the characters are combined into one could work as a fighter concept, and it would definitely be nice to see these characters in 3D as they've been in pixel or general drawing format for a long time. However, Octopath has sold 2 million units over its 2-year span as compared to Ring Fit's 5.8 in less than 1 year. It's still great, with it being higher than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and likely on pace to pass ARMS eventually, but Octopath was mainly a timed switch exclusive for Square Enix, rather than being a first-party title, like those other examples. This isn't big evidence to the contrary, as the vast majority of DLC characters have been third-party, but it's just pointing out that there isn't nearly as much evidence pointing to an Octopath rep as there is for Ring Fit. It would still be a great idea though, and I'd especially love for the many fantastic music tracks from this game to be included in Smash. And one last character that I wanted to talk about in this video was Monokuma, the mascot of the Danganronpa franchise. I get requested a lot in the comment section of these videos to talk about the potential of a Danganronpa character getting into the roster of Smash, but for a long time I've struggled to fit Monokuma into a video about characters that could potentially get in because I never saw him as a frontrunner. As we're going to talk about here, there are a lot of hurdles in front of Monokuma to get into Smash that need to be passed, but I feel that he fits well into the topic of a sleeper character because yes, he does have a chance, and not nearly as many people are talking about the potential as I think that there should be. First of all, for those of you who are unaware, Monokuma represents a new series that could potentially be in Smash, being visual novels, which is what Danganronpa is. They're pretty popular in Japan, and they've been growing ever so steadily overseas, amassing a larger following. But why talk about a visual novel character in this spot? I mean, I could just as easily be talking about Phoenix Wright as a sleeper pick for Smash. There has to be some sort of reason why I'm talking about Monokuma specifically. Well, this is because Sakurai has expressed interest in Kodaka's work in the past, Kodaka being the director of Danganronpa, which I'd say brings his chances up quite a bit considering how Sakurai made similar remarks in the past about Persona 5, leading to Joker getting into Smash. The moveset could be wildly unique based off the various punishments given to characters in the series, which would go along with most of the DLC characters' uniqueness as I was talking about before. Now, as someone who's seen them, they definitely may need to be toned down quite a bit because of the brutal nature of them, but I mean, it's not like they haven't done that for characters before. And while we've talked about sales numbers a lot in this video and saying Dangan's sales numbers won't even look like much of anything compared to the previously mentioned games, there's no denying that they've grown a lot over the last couple of years. But it's not just about Sakurai being a fan of the series. Nintendo has actually had a relationship with Spike Chunsoft, the developers of Danganronpa games, in the past, as they've developed the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon titles, being a very prominent series for Nintendo, and have worked on several other games as well. Now, one of the main problems that arises with the idea of including Monokuma, and it's a pretty big one, is that there hasn't been much of anything from the franchise on the Switch yet. They could simply reveal titles to be coming to the Switch along with the reveal of a Dangan character, or maybe in the upcoming months we could get the reveal of the games coming to the Switch and then the reveal of Monokuma later on. But nothing at all is pretty concerning, with the only saving grace in this regard being the development team's history with Nintendo, as I was just mentioning. Still though, do not sleep on Monokuma. We could definitely be getting him in Smash, and I'd be honestly really excited to see him. There are lots of interesting characters in Danganronpa, to say the least, lots with varying personalities and traits, but Monokuma is the mascot and he would have to be the choice. Now, I had to spend a lot of time on a couple of characters in this video, so I didn't get to touch on every single potential sleeper pick that there is for Smash, so I'd encourage you to let me know some others that I missed in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing so that you do not miss new ones when they release. And with that all being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.